Alright, so you ever have that moment where you meet someone and you say, hey, you look exactly like me? Yeah, well, there's a chance that like 6 people in the world will have that. Well, that's not what we're going to talk about today. Now, today we'll be talking about doppelgangers. Now, I know the term is kind of used more in America or English to describe someone who looks like you. Well, actually, the word comes from Germany, which means double walker. And according to the legends, there are paranormal duplicates of all real people. They can manifest in numbers of ways. You can see them out of the corner of your eye, you can meet them on a lonely road somewhere, or just chillin' seeing you in the back. Or, even more creepy to me, looking into a mirror and seeing an alternate version of yourself staring back at you without your control of its movements. Now, sometimes a doppelganger cannot be seen by the person at all. Instead, they manifest to other people and completely throw them off. So obviously, that's going to cause some confusion in your life as well. There are many explanations for these doppelganger phenomenon. Mystics throughout the ages have believed that they are supernatural creatures, or spirits, basically demonic twins of your own self. Meanwhile, scientists say that they are actually electrical glitches in the brain, or mental illnesses such as like schizophrenia, where people see things that may or may not actually be there. Well, for this video, I'm going to talk about some of the 10 most well-known or recorded stories of doppelganger activity. So I'm going to start this off. There's going to be no specific order to any of these things, so just bear with me. Alright, starting off this list is going to be Jonah Wolfgang von Goth. Excuse me if that's not how you pronounce it, but I'm very bad at reading names, especially German ones. Well, this guy was born in 1749 and died in 1832. He was a famous German writer, poet, and politician, a celebrated author who played a large part in shaping the field of literature. So his words were very widely respected. Alright, so one day this guy was riding along on the footpath of a lonely girl. So as he's riding up to her, he sees this mysterious person riding towards him. And this guy, Goth, claims that this guy who's riding towards him was not actually seeing with his own eyes. He was seeing with his mind eye instead. And obviously that's going to throw you off a bit. He was wearing different clothes, and then suddenly he's gone. The figure's just completely gone. 8 years later, he found himself riding down the same footpath on the opposite direction, and there he realized that he was wearing the exact same clothes his doppelganger wore years ago. So some say that he may have possibly appeared into the future. Some say that this must be a strange coincidence. Well, it's up to you to decide that, and only you can really choose for yourself. Number 9, we're going to go into Catherine the Great. Now, again, I should probably say there's no numbers. I should stop saying the numbers. Catherine the Great, she was a very powerful 18th century empress of Russia, and was very powerful and a very dangerous figure. She was not fazed by any small matters, such as seeing her own ghostly doppelganger take over her throne. Who does that? It was said that one night Catherine was lying in her bed when worried servants told her that they had seen her enter the throne room. When Catherine set out to investigate, she found her doppelganger sitting calmly on the throne. Catherine immediately ordered her sentries to shoot her ghostly counterpart. Stories do not tell whether or not the bullets had any effect on the spectral empress. However, Catherine herself soon died. Very ominous. Next up we have Percy Shelley. He was a very brilliant poet in his own right, although he is mainly remembered as the husband of Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, if you don't know that already. Although one accused that the horror that Mary wrote in her books may have caused Percy to witness monsters and ghosts, because it was obviously not something people wrote about back then. But shortly after, Percy actually saw himself. Shortly before Percy died, drowning in a sailing accident in 1812, he confessed to Mary that they had met a doppelganger of himself many times. These confrontations include one particular haunting experience where he walked into a trance, only to be greeted by his doppelganger, who asked, "How long do you mean to be content?" Now that's very ominous. If that happened to me, I'd probably just curl up in a ball and cry. Strangely, Percy's doppelganger was also witnessed by his close friend Jan Williams, who saw it passing her window on the route to a frequently walked by Percy. to a dead end though, but never returned. And the real person was nowhere nearby. So obviously something's going on. Okay, we're going to skip a little bit of time. We're going to go into the 20th century. So in 1906, British Parliament member Sir Gilbert Parker was attending a debate when he spotted Sir Frederick Carner Rusk, excuse my pronunciation, a fellow Parliament member sitting nearby. It greatly surprised Sir Gillian as Sir Frederick was actually ill at that time. He had influenza, so if you don't know what that is, pretty severe thing. You probably should not be attending a Parliament meeting. Still though, despite all this strange coincidence of him being there while being sick, Sir Gilbert politely greeted Sir Frederick. "Hope you are feeling great." Sir Frederick, being the strange doppelganger he is at the time, he did not react. He actually just sat there, blank face, grim expression, forward, awesome friend. When Sir Gilbert soon glanced to his friend again, the seat was completely empty. So obviously something was going on. He got up and he actually searched for Sir Frederick along in the lobby, only to see that no one had actually seen him enter the building in the first place. Soon after the fact though, Sir Frederick had to write apology letters to other members of Parliament, excusing and apologizing for all the activity that he quote-unquote caused them. Obviously that's not true, because it was not him. Alright, Queen Elizabeth I of England, she reigned from 1558 all the way up to 1603, and was the last Tudor to rule the entire country. Widely recognized as a charismatic, level-headed, and savage monarch, she was the kind of person that no one expected to dabble in paranormal, which makes it all the more scarier that she claimed that she witnessed her own doppelganger. According to the Queen, the spectral Elizabeth was lying motionless in her bed, almost like a corpse laid out for presentation. The experience was particularly haunting because such appearances was said to be a certain sign of death. Still, it was not easy to put this down as a temporary glitch of the mind of an elderly, stressed-out ruler, if it wasn't the fact that Elizabeth died soon after seeing this doppelganger. So, if you're seeing a trend here, do not find your doppelganger, because you're gonna die. Alright, next up, although doppelgangers are generally perceived as sinister, maleficent spirits, it is said that sometimes people are not actually able to control them, but use them as a sort of second body that can biolocate to other people in an instant. This is kind of like spectro projecting, if you know what that is. In the 17th century, though, explorers to a missionary in the New World were astonished to find that many of the tribes in New Mexico have already merely practicing Christianity. When questioning, the tribesmen said that they were converged by a mysterious lady in blue, who had taught them, even given them a number of crucifix and other items to worship. With careful detective work, a few priests finally traced the phenomenon to Mary de Agreda, a young blue-robed Spanish nun. She claimed she had taught Christianity to Indians by bilocating across the ocean. Mary had never left her convent and only knew the place that she had seen as a savage land, but her story was even more convincing to the priests. Probably one of the more famous ones, because if you guys don't know who this is, you probably should go back to 4th grade history and learn this again. Abe Lincoln. Abe Lincoln was known as the Honest Abe, and as such is very open about the interest in the paranormal, at least a private discussion. According to the man himself, he was also experiencing some paranormal activity. On the night of his first election, he took a moment to rest on his couch one evening. Glancing into a mirror, he saw his own visage, except he had two faces. The second Lincoln was very pale and very ghostly, and looked at him from the mirror right next to his own face. Startled, the real Lincoln rose from the couch, and the doppelganger completely disappeared. He sat back down only to see it again. Lincoln was so startled, but his wife Mary was downright terrified. She was convinced that the doppelganger was complete bad and utter news, and it was a certain sign that Lincoln would actually be re-elected for a second term, which is like a positive thing, you'd think, but no. She says that because of the pale and ghostly appearance of the second doppelganger, that it meant that he was not going to survive till the end of his second term. So Lincoln actually repeated this experiment several times, and he actually managed to get a glimpse of the doppelganger more than once, until it eventually disappeared. You know in the end kind of what happens, so I don't really need to explain what happens to Lincoln. Just follow the trend of all the other people, or read a history book. June 22nd, 1893 was not a very good day for Vice Admiral George Tyron. He was commanding 2 columns of ships on the east coast of Syria, and he was given a command for the columns to turn towards each other. This attempt was a majestic naval drill maneuver turned out to be an amateur mistake, as the first ship promptly rammed into the other one, and one of them, the one Tyron happened to be on, sank like a stone. Tyron died knowing that he had just doomed 357 men to drown. His last words were obviously very fitting. It is entirely my fault. Though actually at the exact same time, Tyron's wife was holding a lavish party over back in their home in London, when suddenly the guests were actually surprised to see Tyron appear at the party. This doppelganger actually stayed for a few hours into the party before disappearing himself, only for a few days after the fact to have Tyron's wife hear about the news of her now late husband. Alright, so excuse my pronunciation on this one because this is very hard. French writer Guy de Maupassant is known for what is perhaps the most intimate doppelganger experience on record. Towards the end of his life, he is said to have regularly interacted with his doppelganger. An eerie twin not only talked to him, but sat down and started dictating a short story to him. Yes, this guy actually claimed that one of the last stories that was literally written by a ghost were some of his last works. If it's not chilling enough, don't worry, it gets even worse. The story of the spirit allegedly dictated that this guy was the Horla, an unnerving tale of a man whose sanity is slowly consumed by an evil spirit that uses him as a host, as if echoing the story of his own mental health of the events that were actually occurring in his house. After the fact, he was in an insane asylum. That's where he died. So, continue to follow that trend we got there. Alright, so the last person I'm going to talk about is Emily Saggy. She actually never saw her doppelganger. Everyone else did. Saggy worked as an exclusive girls' school, and she was very good at what she did. She was a teacher, but for some reason she kept moving from one job to the other. In 16 years, she changed her position an impressive 19 times, so some years obviously more than once. In 1845, the school found out why. Saggy was allegedly in the center of some of the strangest doppelganger activity known to man. Her spectral twin was once seen during a class as 13 students witnessed the doppelganger standing by Saggy's side and mirroring her movements. Next, it stood behind her as she ate, following her movements once more. Saggy herself was completely oblivious to this apparition, despite the fact that everyone else could see it clearly. However, she did become strangely goggly and powerless towards the end of the times the doppelganger manifest, draining her energy, let's say. Soon, the doppelganger actually ventured beyond Saggy's area, and it began moving into classrooms that she was not even in. It began moving down the hall, it began moving throughout the building, moving things, passing through walls. This was obviously freaking out students, and that is why she left so frequently. The girls were convincing their parents to start removing them from the school, although Saggy was the model employee on a non-paranormal account. The headmistress had no option but to fire her for her ghostly double. That is actually all for today, guys. If you enjoyed this as much as I did, because when I heard about doppelgangers, I was like, yeah! But obviously I can't go too far. I have like a 15-minute limit for my videos. If you guys did enjoy it, I would definitely make more. If you have any stories of your own, definitely send them in. If you're comfortable with it, I will make a video on it or just talk to you over it. I'll try my best to help you, because I obviously don't want you to follow in the footsteps of these people. No, not at all. Until next time, guys, I will see you soon.